Hello YouTube and welcome to the Pioneer installment of Castle's Collectibles. I'm your guy Castle and today we will be reviewing the Kickstarter exclusive Spawn Trilogy pack. Last year before this COVID madness, Todd McFarlanes launched the Kickstarter for a re-release of the original Spawn action figure all the way back from 1995. And it met its goal in less than a day. Because of that, we were able to get more accessories and even bonus figures that you had to buy into on higher tiers or just get all at once. And the tier I contributed to, being the Spawn fanboy that I am, I contributed to the Trilogy pack, which includes the classics, as you can see here, the modern Spawn that I will get into later, and the artist-proof version, which honestly is identical to the one you see right here in front of you. But the only difference is that he's just entirely gray. He's got an extra green necroplasm accessory, but other than that, I will not be reviewing him because he's basically the exact same thing as what you see here. Alright, so first things first, let's talk about the aesthetics and sculpts. So, Spawn here cuts a very sharp, very aesthetic silhouette, okay? McFarlane Toys is always known for making static action figures, so to speak. They pay a lot of attention to their sculpts, and this figure is no exception. Previous production photos show Spawn being rendered mostly as a statue. That's why we have the little twist in the torso right here. There's a lot of really good detail across this figure. Most Spawn figures typically have raised edges along the cowl, as you can see right here. The white areas, those are raised up. The M symbol, those are all raised up, as are the white strips along here. They are raised up as well, except on the biceps here. That is just pure paint. However, I can barely notice it because of the overall, because it just offsets it right here in the wrists and on the pectorals moving down through the torso. Spawn here, he's got a lot of great detail in the sculpt, and one thing right here is, especially in the face, you can actually make out a skull-like grimace in there. Look at that. In the light, you can see it right there. You know, he's always looking mean. He's got glowing green eyes. He's got some great shadowing. You know, when it comes to it, he looks like a very beautiful figure. A lot of airbrush detail. Moving down, you can see the chain link that holds his cape together. This is actual stainless steel. One of the Kickstarter goals was to add stainless steel to the figure, and it looks like they definitely made it, because he's got it up here, and he's got it around his belt loop as well. I may have wanted to see a longer chain link come from Spawn, because in the artwork he's always being portrayed as having a super long chain belt, but this is based off of the original figure from 1995 where it was just plastic that went just around the thigh. So I can see where they're coming from here, and you know what, it still looks really cool. The overall sculpt really just feels very McFarlane. He's got the slight twist in the torso, he's got excellent detail all the way around. Really good musculature, just especially in the torso here. You can definitely see it. Because they've added shading underneath the pectoral muscles and around the sternum and over the abs. Even on the wrists over here, and even, there's even some shading inside up here just as it meets the white. So there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of detail on this character. Paint apps and sculpt-wise, he just looks great. And of course, let's talk about the gigantic cape that this guy has. It is a brick of a cape with a wingspan that is about taller than, that's probably about longer than he is tall. He's got shading going all up and down, all through the cracks, and he's got a really nice detailed texture in here. It looks like really wrinkled, just crappy fabric, so to speak, for his cape. The waist is very soft, pliable plastic, so it holds the sculpt really well, but it also doesn't really hinder the articulation that much, which we'll get into in a second. Moving down, he's got his magazine pouches, which also have the same treatment. It's a very cool red color with even cooler shadings, but with warmer highlights, so it really stands out. He's got his, I forget what these are called, I guess like torques or bracelets for his legs. And that is hard plastic, so be careful when you pick this guy up because he will poke you in the fingers. He's got the same thing up here on his arm, that's an armlet, and on his knuckles as well. From what I can tell, the blacks on his costume have no real added wash, but it doesn't really matter because, I mean, because it's just a very flat black, it makes everything else really stand out, and it's a good looking effect. If there's one thing I could say about this figure, just from aesthetic and sculpt, is he just looks really good. You can even see on the feet, where instead of like a flat section, they actually molded in the, let's see. They actually molded in the toes for his foot. Sorry, my extremely pasty white hand is throwing off the camera. Alright, let's move on to articulation. Articulation-wise, Spawn here, he's got all the important bits covered. He has a ball-jointed head on a single-jointed neck, which is it's actually a little bit strange because this is not, because of the way it's sculpted, this is not a symmetrical cut. So this shoulder is raised a little bit higher than this one, and because of that, when we move the neck, we get the gap between the sternum here and the well, the neck itself, just under the Adam's apple. So if you twist it in just the right way, which I might not be able to replicate on camera, I guess it's good right now, but there are times when you try to twist the head, this whole section will pop out and it'll look a little bit strange. It's not a big issue, it's just a small minor gripe. So before I get too deep into the articulation though, there is one thing I need to say, and this is actually a very important bit because it actually hinders the articulation so much, is that cape that you see on Spawn here, this gigantic red brick, that is non-removable. So because of that, that's as far as his arms will go. He can't even hold a proper T-pose, and if you're trying to raise his arms up, that's as high up as they will go. And that's kind of a big detractor because honestly, the body, it looks like it's loaded with good articulation, but that cape just really gets in the way. Anyway, cape aside, he's got your standard ball-jointed shoulders here that move up and across, which you just saw me do. He's also got a swivel right there as well. It's weird. He's got two swivels. He's got a swivel at the top of the bicep and at the bottom of the bicep. You can see the bicep or the elbow here. It's only a 90 degree. It's a single joint. But the way it looks like it hides that articulation, or it hides the sculpt really well. Because, you know, look, you can actually see the bend there. So these are all custom-made joints for this guy, and they look great. Even though it's not a 90 degree, or I'm sorry, even though it's not a double-jointed elbow, it doesn't really rub me the wrong way. I mean, he still gets the arm up there. You can still get those cool-looking, you know, poses coming in right so. But the biggest thing here, though, is definitely this cape here. It just screws with that arm articulation. Anyway, he's got a very easy to move swivel here. There's no articulation in the chest, so he can't do any kind of ab crunch because they really wanted to preserve that torso, I guess. And he's got your standard splits, and he can move his leg up pretty good. He's got double jointed knees, which is pretty great. He's got a easy to use ball joint here on the ankle. And he's also got a very smooth toe articulation here, but they also added some swivel beneath the leglets, or the whatever you want to call these little spiked gauntlets on his legs. Oh, and he's also got a little bit of shimmy room in there too, so he can you know, you can make him all pigeon-toed if you really want to. You know, if you want your Spawn to be, you know, shy. I don't think he really is. On his arms, he's also got hinges where his wrists go, and they turn really easily. So yeah, he can hold all manner of really cool poses, but the problem is just this cape tends to hamper quite a bit of them. He doesn't even really need to use a stand because the cape itself really works as a third point of contact, which you can see right there. It touches there and touches there. But let's talk about the articulation on the cape as well, because the original, it had hinges, and this one, it's no different. It's got hinges here too, and it, for the most part, works really well, although it does have that extra point of contact when you move it forward. So that really is screwing with it right now. But it does have a really good range of motion, and these joints, they do not feel loose. They look like they will stay in whatever pose that you put them in. I am a little bit upset that this section right here is actually longer than Spawn is, because you can't get that fully wrapped around clothes, because as you can see, the cape pokes out further than his foot. So the articulation is there, but because of a couple of, let's just say odd design choices, it is a little bit hampered, and that's unfortunate because he does look like a great figure, and his body has the articulation to do a lot of really cool poses. But for some reason, that cape is just not removable, which is strange because McFarlane even put out a video showcasing the articulation of the figure and the cape as being removable. As you can see up here, this is where it's glued in. It's glued in up the back, right there, and it's also glued in here and here. The two areas right here just on the shoulders. So if you want to take this cape off, you will have to mutilate the figure. You're going to have to take a knife to it, and man, I don't really want to do that. I love doing custom capes, but the sculpt, it just looks so good. I really wish that cape was removable. All right, let's move on to the accessories next. Now, if there's one thing here that McFarlane did is they included a lot of goodies for our man Simmons. He comes with 2 pairs of extra hands, as you can see. He's got relaxed open hands, which are used for his guns and sword. You can actually put all of his weapons in these hands. He's got some fist slash circle hands, which looks like they are made specifically for the sword. And speaking of sword, let's go ahead and move into that. Here is the gigantic demon slaying sword that comes with Spawn. It is almost as tall as he is. This thing probably comes in at 6 3/4 inches. Spawn himself stands 7 inches with another 8 when you count the top of his rabbit ear cowl. The sword pommel here, it actually pops off so it can slip into the hands pretty easily. I like it when they do that, man, so it doesn't screw with the sculpt and it doesn't screw with the look at all. Then just pop it right back on and then pop the hand right in. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, these hands, they go in and out relatively easy. It's just a little bit of pressure, but once they're in, they're relatively solid. They stay in. If there's one thing about this figure that I really like is that it feels very premium, and that's what I like. That's what I was going for here. The joints are all excuse me, the joints are all really nice and tight. As you can see, I got Spawn holding his sword, perfectly horizontal, and it's not dipping down. I have to push it to get it to do that. So that's great. These are some good joints. This is a great figure in my opinion. So he also comes with a necroplasm accessory. It looks like it's either a blade or a burst that fits onto this hand right here. Let's go ahead and put that on. Let's see. So it swoops in right there. Yep, so it lines up like so. So he's got himself some magic power. But because of the articulation, he can only, bleh, bleh, bleh. That's about it. So let's go ahead and pull out the other hand here. Here's the right hand. And, speaking of, here's his guns. As you can see, it just drips 1990s McFarlane. It looks like it's based off of your typical AR-15, but it's just been, just comicked out. There's a bunch of unnecessary panels and grill lines. You got a scope with a laser light combo. He's got, looks like 2 barrels on this gun. He's got a 203 grenade launcher with a gnarly barbed bayonet. Let's go ahead and put this in his hands too. It looks like it fits right into the hand as it's supposed to, with the finger going through the trigger guard. Let's go ahead and put this in his hand too. Alright, Spawn getting geared up, y'all. So there we go. Yep, Spawn looks like he's ready to rock. Look at that. I will say one thing. He does look great when it comes to all of his accessories, which we aren't even done with yet. He comes with his original just spiked club, and man, look at this abomination. It's got nails coming in and out. I feel like I'm going to get tetanus just by holding on to this thing, and it fits into the other hand, the other open relaxed hand slot really easily. That's the thing, is that his accessories go in really nicely, and they all look really good in his hand. Just imagine him with that. And also, he comes with a necroplasm dagger, which, cool, neat. McFarlane, I appreciate it, but I'm going to be honest with you, I will probably never pose my Spawn with this, just because, I don't know, what's the point? And last but not least, at least in regards to classic Spawn, he comes with Hamburger Head. And let's go ahead and just take a look at the paint apps and sculpt on that. That looks gorgeous. Look at that. The individual teeth are painted. He's got the glowing green eyes. He's got bits of the skull poking through. You know, if there's one thing that Spawn always needs, is he needs his hamburger head, and I'm really glad that they included this. Let's go ahead and put this on that guy right now. So to put the head on, you just pop the other one off. Obviously, there's the peg. So yeah, check this out. I wanted to show this off just so that I can. So see how it's non-symmetrical right there? It's elongated over here, but not right here. Sometimes when you turn the head, you can actually see that poking out. It didn't happen on this review, which I guess is pretty cool, but when I fiddle with the Spawn figure, I make it happen more often than I'd like. So here's our hamburger head. Let's put that on. Just get it right on there. This one takes a little bit. This one takes a little bit more effort to put on. There we go. So he still has the articulation. He can still move, but as you can see, that's where we get that gap. Because this one, he's got the ball jointed neck. It's much easier to hide it, but this one, it's just a solid sculpt. So in order to hide the joint right there, the head poking out, you have to really keep it in this pose. I wish they would have included that ball joint underneath the regular neck, but unfortunately they opted to forgo that. But wait, that's not all. What Spawn also comes with, as you can see here that I've got back here, is a re-release HD version, I guess, of the original comic in gold foil, which, oh, it's holographic. It looks gorgeous. You know, all the interior is black and white, but he redid, Todd redid the entire, should try to show that off as much as I can. Todd redid the artwork for the cover page to update it a little bit more. So it's such gorgeous artwork, right? If there's one thing I can say about Todd is that he does know how to draw. That man can draw his ass off. But also, last but not least, for our goodies with Classic Spawn is we have the Todd McFarlane plaque signed by the man himself. Now, I've never had a Todd McFarlane autograph, so this is a first, and you know what? Cool, I'll take it. Why not? So that about wraps things up for Classic Spawn, so let's go ahead and bring in Modern Spawn. That's right. So first and foremost, I need to say this. He is my favorite interpretation of the character. The all-black suit and giant gauntlet that he's got on his on his right arm, and the giant boot from hell on his left foot. There's just some of the most iconic aspects of this character, and it's more streamlined than the red suit, but way more intimidating. Story-wise, in battle, Spawn got a beatdown from Clown Violator, and his costume had to adapt to the damage, so it basically grew new armor, which is where we get the thickness from. Now, the figure is almost identical to Classic in all the major sense, but there are some key differences. Color palette and added sculpt to be precise. His right arm, right here, features beast of a gauntlet, which goes all the way up to his elbow, and he still has the articulation there. He's got the swivel there. He still has the swivel in the biceps and the swivels in the elbows. His left foot has a very pokey, very spiky, gigantic-ass boot. But I guess because they added the boot, there is no extra articulation here. So he's actually moving down on the articulation on the modern character. Kind of expect it. He still has it on the foot. Let's see, can he? Yeah, it can go up and it can go down. I haven't been able to really move it side to side, but he still has his toe articulations there, and he still has his extra movement there as well on the right calf, just below the anklet, I want to call it. I still don't know what to call those things. It's a spiky brace on his leg. Alright, so I'm going to talk about the head sculpt that Spawn comes with right here. It's a hamburger head sculpt, except it's been laced up. Now, there is a story behind that. So, just to come out and say it, this is my favorite unmasked version of Spawn because it has so much more personality. In the earlier comics, during a battle with Batman, of all people, he takes a battering to the face. A kid named Bobby would use his shoelace to stitch Spawn's face back up, and it would become an iconic look for the character. So it's really cool that this was included. Modern Spawn also comes with an assortment of hands, as you can see here. He comes with his two relaxed open hands, and he comes with two fists / holding a a sword hand. He also comes with the exact same spiked club as Classic Spawn. He comes with his own separate necroplasmic spike, I guess, if he wants to Wolverine out. Either it's necroplasm tendrils, maybe he could use it for stabbing motions. I don't know. It's really cool. I love it when they include these energy weapons and these cool things in these figures. He also comes with his own gun as well. This monster of what I can only assume is an automatic shotgun or something, maybe. I don't know. It's got RPG rocket launcher at the very top. It's got a barrel that fires a caliber of ammunition that is just super huge. It has an underslung rotary grenade launcher. It's in a bronzed color all the way around, and still features that same high-tech McFarlane 90s look. And it just looks super cool. The detail on all these weapons is just astonishing. There was a wash on this as well. As you can see, the detail as it comes in, you can make out all that detail because they didn't just paint it. They didn't just go over it once. They went ahead and added the wash, which just adds a lot more depth. And this is what I would hopefully expect from a premium figure like the Kickstarter Spawn. But one of my favorite accessories that he comes with, Al Simmons' human head that he can swap out. Although it's been touched by the necro energy, as you can see he's got the glowing green eyes, but otherwise this is a beautiful sculpt of Simmons. Let's go ahead and put him on. Yep, there it is. It's such a cool sculpt and adds so much extra detail to him. He's got the same articulation as Spawn's default head from Classic Spawn, meaning the head itself is sitting on a ball joint, but then it also attaches underneath on the single peg underneath the neck. So he's got full range of motion. He looks up, he can look back as far as it'll go, but because the cape here blocks, but he's got that full rotary range, which we just love. Alright, now that we got the review out of the way, let's go ahead and see how they stack up. Alright, so the actual figure themselves, let's go ahead and measure this out the right way. So the actual figure himself, yeah, he measures at just about 7 inches to the head, and about 8.5 if we take into account the rabbit ear cowl that he seems to have. And since he's the exact same size as him, I'm going to go ahead and let that one be. So, in comparison to the Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn, let's go ahead and drop him in there. Yep, he fits really well in scale there. Let's get him all the way back. Yep, in terms of size, they all seem to be very identical. Alright, let's compare him to a Masters of the Universe Classics body. I've got Super 7 Conan right here. He uses the Motu Classics, which I will do a review on him later. He stacks up just as well. They all look like they're in scale. They fit really well. Spawn over here might have, like, I don't know, a centimeter on him, but otherwise, yeah, he looks good there. So let's go ahead and put him away. Let's stack him up to a WWE Elite Series Royal Rumble Stone Cold Steve Austin that I was able to pick up in the wild at a Target. And yet, he stands about the same as well. I've got Spawn here. He's kind of leaning forward a little bit. His legs are spread. So, I'm sorry, the modern Spawn. So he's a little bit shorter than normal. Classic Spawn, he's standing straight up. And he looks like he's the size difference is barely noticeable. So yeah, these figures will fit into any 6 or 7 inch toy line because, you know, that's just the scale that Spawn is. Spawn is normally supposed to be an extremely tall figure. He's very imposing. Let's go ahead and put him next to a Star Wars Black Series Stormtrooper who, man, alright, so the Stormtrooper does not stack up. He is too short to be a Stormtrooper. Let's get those legs working. Alright, there we go. Yep, I can imagine Spawn just wading through a sea of those guys. Because, alright, how about Mezco? Mezco seems to be very, Mezco's been very consistent with their scales. So let's go ahead and put in a Mezco Punisher. I went ahead and jacked the Mezco Deluxe Cape. And yeah, Frank Castle here, he's a little bit short. He's a little bit on the shorter side. Spawn definitely towers over him, but again, Spawn has always been a very big character. So would I consider this to be in scale? Maybe for the most part. I think they would pose pretty well no matter what. So let's go ahead and put him aside, and I've got a Bandai Goku Dragon Ball Z here also found in the wild at Target, of all places. I did not know that they carried figure arts out there. Which, as we can see, they're always been really short. I wonder who'd win in a fight, Goku or Spawn? I mean, Spawn technically does have the powers of a god. Alright, y'all, so there you have it. There is our review of the Kickstarter exclusive Spawn figures. Now, the only way you were able to even get these figures is if you bought into the Kickstarter. Otherwise, there's going to be a very, very hot secondary market. From what I've seen, I was on eBay just checking prices. Man, these guys go for $300, $400, $500 a pop now. So that's a bit of a tough pill to swallow. But the overall consensus here is, what do I think of this figure, and do I think it's worth your money? You know, I was able to get it out the Kickstarter, so I definitely think it was worth it. These figures, they feel very premium. They feel very high quality. There was a couple of design decisions that I just don't agree with, and the biggest one, mostly the only one, is just that cape. Just does not come off unless you want to mutilate the figure. And that's too bad, because he's a great figure and I love custom capes. And I got a custom cape specifically for him, but I don't know if I'm going to use it anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and use it on my Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn, which I will actually do a review for later. So, if I were to rate this figure on a scale of 1 to 10, where would I put it? He's a solid 8. He's got a great body, the articulation and the movement is really there, and the attention to detail is awesome. I really wanted to have that ab crunch so that he could get some more poses in there, and I wanted to have more swivel on the thighs, especially on Modern Spawn right here, because he doesn't have the swivel there. But he comes loaded with accessories, the paint apps are awesome, he just looks cool. First and foremost, if there's one thing that Spawn does, is he just looks cool. So if I was going to rate this, definitely an 8 out of 10. I would have liked to see that cape come off, but given for what they were going for, I can understand why they didn't. Man, this figure, he just rocks. He just looks good. He moves good. You know what? He's a great Spawn figure. I'll just say that. But guys, until next time, this is Castle, and thank you for watching Castle's Collectibles. If you like this video, you know, I don't really care what you do with that subscribe button, but I know this. If you press that button, I get to review more toys.